Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. It's very special today because you have me and you have Ali, and we both are glowing in the heat of our heater. That's why you get this nice light coming through, and in our polar necks because it is cold, everybody. Anyway, you're watching Africam's Wild Moments, brought to you by explore.org, and we're going to go through some of the best moments that we've had this week across our cameras here in Southern Africa, or South Africa at least. And we have some pretty exciting things. And I'd also like all of you to remember that it's live, so you can send us your questions and your comments and your hellos to Ali and I as you usually do. And then we can get cracking. But first, let's hear from Ali. Ali sounds muted. Are you muted, Ali?
I was muted. Hi. I made it. I'm good out in the field. Clearly. I am very excited to be here today. I was just saying that, I mean, you are clearly my guiding soul sister. We wear the same stuff. We've got the heaters. We go to the same places. We know the same people.
It's true, and now we do the same show.
That's even better.
Look at that. Yeah, so we have, to start us off, even before we get the hellos and everything like that, we have a question. I'm going to let you take this one, Ali. It's
I'm
from
ready.
Rose B. Hi, Rose. You'd like to know, in a battle between a rhino and a hippo, who would win?
It's a difficult one. I think be in place. If it's in the water for a reason, the hippo would have the upper hand. But if it's on land, I think that, if it's not a dehorned rhino, then the rhino might have a better chance. Nowadays, it's hard to tell, there are too many ifs.
Exactly. I love questions like that because sometimes I get the strangest comparisons of animals in battle. Usually they come from my very young cousins. So it just makes you think a little bit because often I don't think about, say, a honey badger and a mongoose or a vervet monkey, which I often get from my little cousins. But thank you, Roseby. Got us thinking just off the bat. And now we have some hellos. Donna Moran, you say, hi, everyone from Ontario, Canada. Hi.
Hello.
We have Jan Powers. She says, hi, all. And Rolling Trouble, of course. Hello, ladies. Great to see you both today. Great to see you, too. Let's go through all of these and then we'll move on to our first clip. So Andy says, good afternoon and a big welcome to Ali. Whoop.
Yay, thank you.
And hello, it's Alison from Liverpool, UK. I hope you are both okay. We are okay. Thank you, Alison. At least I am. Ali, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm also okay. Thank you for asking.
Lillian says hi from Bloemfontein in South Africa. Hi, Lillian. And of course, Shreyas, you say hello to Trishala and Ali and everyone else.
Hello.
Okay, so let's move on. We're going to start with a clip that I can say I've never seen this creature before, but I've heard all about it. And I think that, like Ali, I agree that it may be a myth. Here we have none other than the myth itself. Ooh, listen to that. The Pearl's fishing owl, everyone.
They are just adorable, aren't they?
Yeah, I have such a soft, special place in my heart for owls.
Look at that. I feel like that's how I look like every time it rains and I have to go to the street.
I tend to agree with you.
I mean, believe it or not, it rained yesterday up in Hoedspruit in South Africa. So I do look like, a mythical owl that very few people have actually managed to see in their lifetime.
Can you also notice that because of the shape of the eye of an owl, it doesn't catch the light evenly on both sides if the eye's at an angle, and so you can see one looks dark while the other one looks very bright. You
That's
might
a
have to
very
go
cool
back.
observation there, Trish.
Oh, why,
I,
thank
d-
you.
I personally don't think owls are real. I think they are lies. Because every time I've gone trying to look for one, they're not there. So when footage like this comes up, I was like, oh, artificial intelligence is quite something nowadays.
Well, I've never seen one. I mean, it doesn't occur in the range I am. And it's the largest owl species in South Africa, I think. Pretty sure it's
Bigger
the
than a
largest.
rose?
Yeah,
You
pretty
see,
sure
I
it's
haven't
bigger than
seen
a
it, so
rose.
I don't know.
Um, yeah, they're pretty big. If a rose eagle is about like 1.7 to 2 kgs at most, I think the fishing owl is up to about 3 kgs, maybe even a little more.
Okay. So they're quite big.
Yeah.
I did not know this.
Mm.
Interesting.
They also love their call. It's doesn't sound like an owl.
It sounds like a
I know
very
I'm
nice,
expecting a
sweet
hoot hoot.
owl, doesn't it? Like, ooh, like they're happy, like they're chilled. Like they live next to a stream and life is just wonderful and relaxed and happy and
Well, I mean, that is what it sounds like. And I always find it very interesting how different birds make different sounds because essentially they have, sorry, I'm holding my neck because I'm thinking of the syrinx in their necks, which is why I'm holding here. But essentially the mechanics are the same. It's the same organ that they're using, but they can produce these different sounds. And when I hear this Pell's fishing owl, I've not heard a bird make a sound like that before. It's quite a drawn out and sometimes very deep, like it's resonating at a very low frequency. It's very cool.
I love it. I think if I'm not mistaken, they breed also now or they're gonna start breeding soon. So they start calling and you start hearing them more because they're establishing territories and creating the pairs are being created or they're bonding their social pairs already. So apparently there's more than one out there in the world, so they say. But places next to riverbeds all around the greater Kruger area are
Yeah.
generally good for Pell's fishing owls. Not like rivers that are very fast flowing, but more
Mm.
calm rivers are very
And
good for them.
that's
So they say.
so they say, but we've never seen it.
I
And also
actually
that
know people that have seen them. Sorry to interrupt you.
no, go for it.
That was it.
Did you say you know people who have seen them?
I know of people that have seen it. I know of people where I have worked that have seen them after I've stopped working in those places. Have evidence. So
Typical. Typical. But it makes sense. I mean, just as some of the general biology for all of you is that it's a fishing owl, so they like to eat fish. And then I also found out that they will take small Nile crocodiles.
I also read that. We must have read the same thing.
Yeah, that's. I mean, that's one I'd love to see. An owl carrying a crocodile as it flies off. That would be
I
something.
mean, must be a very small, like lizard size Nile crocodile.
They say baby, but is it big baby, small baby? Not very specific.
Small baby Trishala, I reckon.
Anyway, we've got a couple questions. Maybe we can have a look at the clip again while we're answering some of these questions because I just love it. Look at that. And then you might also keep an eye out for the owl's eyes. You see the difference, how it doesn't reflect light the same. Anyway, Gigi, hi Gigi, you'd like to know if the Pell's owl is endangered. I don't think it is endangered. I think it is vulnerable, listed as vulnerable.
Yeah, I think you are correct.
Yeah. And then we have, oh, this is an interesting one. Caleb is asking, other than humans, do crocodiles have any enemies? And if so, how often do they come into contact with these predators? Caleb, let me start by saying that we are looking at an owl, but luckily your question does tie into this owl because we just spoke about the fact that these Pel's fishing owls do take baby crocodiles. But as for the general question about whether crocodiles have enemies, I'll throw that to you, Ellie.
Well, I mean, a big Nile crocodile probably doesn't have too much to fear because they're big and nothing really is going to mess with them. But when they're little, they're actually quite vulnerable to a number of things. So other eagles, like a fish eagle, might try to go for a little Nile crocodile. And then other crocodiles. But one of the biggest predators of Nile crocodile are actually monitor lizards because they love digging up the crocodile's nest. So they dig up and then just eat all the eggs or the tiny little crocodiles once they start hatching. And that's it for the nest. So it's the rarest things that will actually hinder the survival of the crocodile. I mean, once they get to a certain
Yeah,
size, nothing really is going to get them.
yeah, and then I think sometimes we overlook them because they're in the water. We overlook them as this apex predator, but they are indeed like a formidable force. Um, Hi, Sarah. Sarah says hi. Hi, Sarah. Here from Kazakhstan. Oh, thanks, Sarah, for joining us all the way from
Wow.
Kazakhstan. I'm so glad that you could come spend some time with Ali and I and watch some African wildlife. Wow, we're getting a lot of questions. First, let's say hi to Bob from Kalamazoo. Bob, I love your username. Says, good day, Trish and Ali. And we have an interesting question again. Do people who live in villages around wild animals have to fear going out and about in their own area? This is from No Name.
Okay. Trish, do you want to weigh in on that?
Well, it's an interesting question, and it is kind of relevant to this clip that we just watched as well, because apart from the imminent danger of there being wild animals that could potentially hurt you physically out there, and yes, people do have to worry about that, especially those communities that live on the fringes of national parks, because fences often go down, and human wildlife conflict is a thing, and it's two-sided. It's not just one. But these communities have learned to coexist with animals quite well. It's just that it doesn't always work out that way, and communities do have to be vigilant, from my experience. But to get a good answer, you'd have to ask people who live in those communities, essentially. And the reason I say it's relevant to this video, I mean to this clip, is that it's not just the potential violence, physical harm that could come to people, but also a lot of cultures fear owls, or hyenas, because there's a tradition and myths associated with those animals. So there's also that to think about, and that's why I said it could be relevant to the clip we just saw. Anything you want to add there, Ali?
Owls in particular. I think the cultural side of things is that owls in particular, because they can turn their heads around so much, that also, and because they can see in the darkness and you can't really hear them when they fly in the dark. There are a lot of
Yes.
negative connotations for owls, which, it's a little bit sad because some of them do get killed for witchcraft or just seeing as bad omens or being seen as bad omens and things like that. But then just also going back to what you were mentioning about the human South Africa are generally quite lucky that most of our areas have a fence to try and minimize human wildlife conflict. But start going north from Botswana all the way to Kenya, then you'll see that very rarely do the fences actually exist to draw a line in the sand, sort of speak, between the wildlife areas and the local communities where people live.
Yeah, and it's a very multifaceted issue,
Oh,
because these are traditional communities that often know how to care for the land sustainably, but are also often excluded from the conservation conversations. I
Oh,
had to
this is
say
a
that
very long
slowly.
talk, this one.
But it was a really good point, and thank you, No Name, for bringing that up. Wow, we have just like, these random questions popping up. Let's get through the owl ones first and then we can move on. Donna, you say, what color is this owl? That is a good question because that was in infrared. Go for
It
it,
is
Ellie.
orangey. It's an orangey owl. Because
Yeah.
it's not bright orange.
Ooh. Yeah, Ellie is right. It's a kind of
It's just a sweet.
rufusy browny orange owl.
I
Very
think our
nice.
color descriptions are just great.
I think we got it down. We got it down. Okay, let us move on to another wonderful clip that we saw this week, and we were actually just speaking about myths and culture traditions in the area, and we spoke about owls and hyenas. So here is a brown hyena that we saw this week. So this for me is another mythical creature that I have never had the pleasure of seeing.
I mean, not in the greater Kruger area, no. This is pretty epic.
So we have seen a clip of a brown hyena previously during the Wild Moments show. Um, Long's River. If it is, that's really exciting because it means that maybe they have a vision. Living, sitting around, looks lost something. But
Maybe it's
that
looking for the
nose
owl.
down, looking for the owl. That kind of nose down is typical of an animal trying to find something, pick up on a scent. Head down, rather. Head down, nose to the ground. There we go.
I mean, and of course, it being again an infrared, then we know that it's looking for something in the dark, which is the time when they're most active.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Where we can only see this because it's an infrared, but for this animal, it can definitely see better than us at night, but it's still not, doesn't have full vision. So it's really got to pay attention to those other senses that are giving it a clue about what's going on around it. Oh, looks like it found a snack.
Wonder what it is. Maybe like a small reptile or an egg or who knows what. Because they are, of course, quite opportunistic animals. So close to a river, maybe they found something interesting there.
Exactly. Lots of interesting things to find around a river. Um, so I wonder. I mean, the last time I didn't really pay attention to any identifying features on the hyena we saw last time, but maybe it's the same one. It would be cool if it is, and also
I mean, if
super
it's the
rare to
same
see.
camera, there's a very good likelihood
Yeah,
that it is the same one. I mean, they are also territorial, so you'd get one of them at least, within a pair that would be around.
and have you seen brown hyena, Ali?
I have seen brown hyena, but not in this area. So I'm in Hoedspruit, so around the greater Kruger area. I haven't seen them around here. I have heard of plenty of records of them being seen, but more sort of like decades ago than what it is right now. And actually, the only sort of brown hyena that I've seen was actually sadly the carcass of a snare brown hyena that she just walked through a snare and then just got it across the mouth and on the neck, and then
Ooh.
as it, I mean, the skin had already all decomposed, so it was just the bones. So going again back to human wildlife conflict, and of course snaring is one of those important things, or things that there are a lot of efforts everywhere in Africa to try and reduce. But the good thing is that, if it's the second time that you've caught it on camera in a very remote area in the Baluli, if there's one, there's got to be more somewhere. And because they're quite elusive and secretive, just like the Pell's fishing owl, we wouldn't be able to see them all that often. So I actually haven't heard of anyone in the daytime in years. So the fact that they're being seen on a camera is quite exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope that we'll see more of it. We have some questions. Tim would like to know, can brown and spotted hyenas interact and get along? I can't say I know of that ever happening. Also, there is a significant size difference between brown hyenas and spotted hyenas. Also, the way that their social systems work are different as well. Spotted hyenas are very competitive. It's openly competitive. It's nepotistic, um, and there's everybody has to put in efforts to keep their rank. Whereas with brown hyenas, you kind of have an alpha pair, and they look after cubs together. Everyone raises, so it's a lot more picture of happy family than say spotted hyenas. And so I can't say that I know of any instance where they get along. Although I can think of areas where they would where they could potentially come into contact because they're in the same area, but can't imagine them getting along. I must
No, I
admit.
think you would imagine like a leopard and a cheetah. Like if you had to,
Mm.
they might not be particularly violent towards one another, but they won't be friends.
Yeah. Maybe, I mean, like with a leopard and a cheetah, they look at each other and go, "You kind of
Eh,
look similar, but you smell terrible,"
but
or whatever.
I also think that as long as food is not involved, then there's a better chance of them getting along.
Yes.
But if there are food or little ones involved, then I no, I don't think so.
No, not at all. Then, oh, here we go. Tonpa, you'd like to know, do brown hyenas interact with leopards the same way spotted hyenas do?
I've never seen this interaction, but I would suspect that leopards bully brown hyenas rather than getting bullied by the brown hyenas, just because of a size difference.
Yeah, I would agree with you as well. And it's like I feel in a very simplistic way that a brown hyena is like a spotted hyena's very shy cousin. So where
Hmm.
you may think that I mean, they're both hyenas, so they would be the same. It's really not. Brown hyenas are very secretive, elusive, very different to a spotted hyena, where a spotted hyena has coexisted with leopards, and they have a dynamic, where with brown hyenas, not really. So I agree with Ali. Whew. And then we have, oh, this is interesting. Joe asks if hyenas ever suffer from back problems or hip dysplasia as they age because of their slanted spines. What do you think, Ali?
I've never even thought of this. Um, I am not sure. I would suppose it's a possibility, like with all animals, particularly if there is maybe inbreeding or something along those lines, then dysplasia tends to be more prevalent. But I don't know. Trish, you are the scientist here, so maybe you want to
Um,
weigh in a little bit more.
when I hear hip dysplasia, I think immediately of big dogs. Um, and so that kind of slanted back that you are asking about, that we see in, say, dogs, is a result of some type of degradation. So, or dystrophy of some sort. So, with the hyena, the slanted back is not a result of injury or old age or any deterioration at all. They are built that way. The hindquarters are shorter than the front, and so it shouldn't, because they are born that way. There shouldn't be any, like, I can't imagine them having hip or spine problems as a result of that. Because if they did, then very quickly those traits would be weaseled out of the population. Doesn't mean
But
that
do
they
you
don't.
think, exactly, that was my question. It's like, do you
Yeah,
think that they wouldn't? I mean, I would imagine they could. Just
they
not,
could, exactly.
as you say, not, they could develop it, but not because of the way that their backs slope, but just because as something that might happen to them.
Exactly, yeah. I wouldn't say the slanted back would be the cause of that, but maybe once there is some deterioration, maybe once there's an injury, then it could happen or could be exacerbated from the by the slanted back. Complex questions you guys have today.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. Mac23 Glass, yo, you say, I dream to see a brown hyena in person. It would be lovely.
I mean, there are some areas in South Africa where you can go and see them. If you go towards the desert, or if you go to the western coast of South Africa, to the Kalahari, or even the Skeleton Coast in Namibia, you should be able to see them there.
Oh, I really want to go to the skeleton.
Let's go, Trish. Let's go together.
Let's go. Wow, you guys are throwing the questions and I love it, but we've only got a few minutes left. So let's move on to our next clip, which is another one of those elusive animals, but this time it's interacting with something that we know a little bit better. Another owl. I wonder if this one, can we look at, ooh, I wanted to look at the eyes, whether they catch, and it's a jackal.
Look at it puffing up. Ooh.
Oh, this is so cool. It's like a little turkey.
Obviously,
So
it
then,
worked well because it scared the jackal off.
I mean, if imagine we see a human and then suddenly when we look at it, it starts puffing up. I mean, I'd also run away.
I'd be terrified.
It's so cool to watch interactions like that. Because, I mean, most of the times animals associated with their own kind or their prey. And then when you see these odd guys coming together, it's very cool. It's very
Yeah,
sweet.
it really is. But it's also interesting. I think it just reinforces the fact that everything in nature is about bluffing. So the owl just puffs up to make itself look bigger, so that the jackal gets a fright, and then it worked, and then the jackal went away. So it doesn't matter how big you are, it's, how big the size of your bluff is.
Exactly. And it just reminds you that if you can fake it till you make it.
This is true.
You can. Okay, let's try and get through a few more of these questions before our time is up. So Renee says that she's heard that cheetahs don't make any kind of roaring sounds like lions. Is that true? I throw it to you. Then I can get technical.
Yes. Oh, okay. Alrighty. So I'm just gonna give you the short answer before Trish goes like this, because she's got to explain the vocal cords and the bones and so on. But technically, no, cheetahs are not considered a big cat because they cannot roar. Jaguars, tigers, lions, and leopards, even though leopards don't roar but they soar, are all considered big cats because they can produce these very loud sounds. Because, over to Trish.
Because big cats have a very flexible hyoid bone. So the hyoid bone is a bone that's at like the bottom of your mouth that kind of your tongue latches onto and connects to your voice box. And so when it's really big and movable, you can create these deep sounds. And then also the vocal folds of big cats are quite thick and heavy. So if you imagine, like, blowing through something, but it's got thick bits like this, then the sound, stop it, Ali. The sound is deeper. So with a cheetah, they have a
Not saying
very,
anything.
very ossified, so very bony hyoid bone. And so when they move air through it or over it, it creates a purring sound. And then their vocal cords or their vocal folds are not as thick, so they can't make deep sounds. So it is true what you heard today, that they don't roar like lions or soar like leopards.
But they purr, which lions and leopards cannot do.
Yes, they
No?
can
Okay.
make purr-like sounds, but it's not technically a purr.
Nah, it's not the same.
No, it's not the same. Susie Q, you say that we have seen a spotted and brown hyena on the same kill at Tau. That is
Wow,
interesting. I wonder if you saw them interact.
that's epic.
I mean, that would be a dream sighting for me. 2 hyena days in one day.
True.
That would be amazing. Guys, I must say I'm really impressed with everyone's questions and how much depth we got to go into for these clips. I really enjoy it. That's one of my favorite things when I do these shows and spend this time with you, is that we get to have in-depth conversations with some really interesting questions. So thank you. But it is that time for Ali and I to say goodbye, and thank you very much for joining us. And we'll see you again next time. And we hope, Ali, that you will join us again.
Hopefully, it's been a lot of fun, Trish. So thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.